You want to go ahead and introduce yourself to those who may not know?
Sure. Hi, my name is Buck Angel. I am a transsexual male. So I am a female who transitioned to live my life as a male 32 years ago. And I use the term transsexual because I live my life as a male. I don't live my life as a trans person.
Okay. I first heard of you when you were on the You Are Here podcast with Sydney Watson and Elisha Schaefer. Um,
Excellent.
so that's how I knew you, and I found you obviously, like you said, you are a transsexual, so I thought your views were interesting since it was a very hot topic by then. It's been a couple of
Yeah.
years.
Yeah.
And then it was awesome to see you in person at Blair White's event up in Phoenix. That was
That's
really
right.
cool. Interesting
Awesome.
conversation.
Great.
So my next thing would move into what are your thoughts on the elections?
Oh, I
Since it's a
already
hot
pretty
topic
much.
right now.
It's a hot, of
Yeah.
course it is. I mean, how can it not be? I am an American. I love being an American. I've lived in Mexico for 10 years. I have traveled the world. I always come back to this country because I do know and have had actual experience being in other countries. And I do believe in this country. And I feel very much that I can, being part of the LGBT community, I have felt that I can express myself here more than you can in many other countries. So with that, I believe that our country got out of control because of a very left leaning. And again, I also want to let you know that I'm a registered Democrat and I consider myself a pretty liberal person. But as things progressed in this country on the Democratic side, I saw things that I wasn't happy with as a liberal minded Democrat. And I think a lot of us Democrats were being sort of put in a weird position. So I am not shocked. I'm not shocked that Trump won. I'm not shocked that more than half the country, probably almost the whole country, voted for Trump.
Yeah, it
And
was
he won
crazy
the
the
popular
numbers.
vote. He just slaughtered. I
The
mean,
way wave this is the red wave that they feared in 2020.
that's right, friend. And it's their fault. As a, again, registered Democrat, and I use quotes because I'm pretty much leaving that party. I saw it coming, and many Democrats left this year, or many Democrats voted for Trump, which I think is very historical on some level.
Mhm. Yeah, I still hear people on like Twitter saying some counties are still counting ballots, and
Yeah,
that's crazy.
yeah,
So I don't know what the total number is for Kamala, but I have heard
yeah.
people bring up the discrepancy between Biden and her. It's
Right,
I think like 6, 7 million votes. So it proves a
totally.
lot of people left, though they really did try to rig 2020.
Well,
It brings up a
also
lot of questions.
it brings up well, first of all, on the Democratic side, it was very undemocratic for them to just appoint Harris without asking us as the people who we wanted to take Biden's place. They just appointed, and that is not the way the system works. You can't just appoint somebody in that position. And it was unfair for us as voters to be sort of told we are now going to have Harris as our candidate. I didn't appreciate that, to be honest with you.
It's a little hypocritical that they're always screaming how Donald Trump is a threat
Yep.
to democracy and they didn't even follow their own rules.
No,
Um,
and there we go. That's what's happened to a lot with that party being in charge of everything. We lost our ability to have critical thinking. Remember, we lost our ability to push back on people on the internet because words were hurtful or community stand. They started using these terms like community standards, right? Which, wait a
mhm.
minute, that doesn't make that's like such a gaslighting sort of phrase, if you ask me, because what does that even mean? So if I said something to another trans person that I disagreed with, I'm the one who would be sort of blocked or taken off the platform as misinformation or community. When I transitioned 32 years ago, friend, like this is literally my life, and it's not something that I don't have a lot of experience in. Yet I didn't align with the as Blair. That's why Blair and I are great friends because we don't align with that message they're trying to. And it's just because you're trans doesn't mean you have to be a Democrat or a liberal. Though I am though I'm leaving. Now I would consider myself more of an independent, to be honest with you.
Yeah, I have seen that. I've gotten into it with a few people on Twitter that have said that you can't support gays and trans and support Trumps.
That's
Um,
not true.
and yeah, I would disagree. And like I said, I follow you and Blair. You guys would know at the end
Yep.
of the day.
Yep.
Um, I turned 18 in 2010. First election I could vote for was 2020. So
Hmm.
I wasn't really political back then. So I was like,
Hmm.
why not first black president? Why not two terms? But
Yeah,
then it was Trump 2016, Trump 2020, and then Trump
that's
this
right.
time. I'm happy he won. Maybe we
I
can
think
do,
we all are.
yeah,
I'll be
hopefully we
honest
can
with you.
turn it around.
I mean, I just feel like we didn't have a choice. We actually didn't have a choice. If those people would have continued to sort of lead our country, I think we would lose our country. And like I said, I have traveled the world and I have lived in other countries, and I think people who have just sort of when you're in a bubble or when you're in a space where you never feel other situations, right? So like I don't know what it means to be a black person, but I bet if I went and lived in a black neighborhood and sort of assimilated myself into the black, I would have a much better understanding of what it means to be that, right? If that makes
Hmm.
sense. It's the same with if you don't understand what you have in this country because you're always just able to do these things, you think it's just okay. You think you're just voting, but you don't see the down. I saw a downfall of so many things that to me represent America, right? The fact that
Hmm.
they were really going after, specifically in the LGBT, IAPP poo poo, I call it community because it's not the LGBT community anymore. But I saw so many things that were alerting me to we are in big trouble now. How they, for example, when you start saying trans women are women, that's very dangerous behavior because it's an actual lie, right?
Hmm.
So when you start
Yeah.
lying, people aren't going to be okay with you if all you're trying to do is lie to them. They're not going to trust you ever.
Yeah, personally, that's how I see it. You can live your life how you want. If you think you really are born in the wrong body, that's fine. Just don't force me. Um, there's no other way to say it, but don't force me to
Right.
play pretend with you. I can respect you,
Right.
call you what you want, just don't force me. And then the kids stuff too was a whole big issue with a lot of people. And
Wow,
that's a
of
whole nother
course.
topic to get into. We don't have time for.
Well, the thing is that I'll tell you what made a lot of people go towards the Trump vote is the kids being transitioned, sick and wrong, right? Trans women are women, sick and wrong. A bunch of weirdo dudes who aren't really trans pretending they're women and going in women's locker rooms and showing their penises. I mean, come on. That stuff is so outrageous. And then we're all just supposed to play along with it. Like I've
Mhm.
navigated the world this way for, I don't just go around showing myself off in the middle of like some place or saying I'm a man. Like you just can't do that. It doesn't make people feel comfortable. It's up to me to make you feel comfortable. Whether in the trans community they've been taught the other way, it's up to you to make me feel comfortable. That's not the truth. I have to make you feel comfortable, and it's why I've
Mhm.
existed for such a long time with great people like you and many people who are totally respectful of me and let me walk the world this way.
Yeah, it's crazy how because abortion was a huge issue this time around. Not that
That's
it's
right.
always isn't.
Yeah.
How many
Yeah.
trans men who they're trying to live like men being like stay out of my area. It's like you can't. It really is baffling how you can have those kind of like points of views and not
Yeah.
see it. How ridiculous it is to be like, I want to be
Right.
a man, but also I can get pregnant and stay out of my life.
No, it says to me because we never thought that way as trans men
Hmm.
ever. That's so against everything. We want to be like you, right? So we know men don't get pregnant. And if we're going to get pregnant, we're going to keep it secret and never tell anybody about it. That's how I knew that it wasn't the real trans community because they were starting to infiltrate with this weird. If you are actual have real gender dysphoria, you are not going to want to get pregnant. That is a fact. And you're not going to want to talk about your period and you're not going to want to pretend all these things that and also the other thing is if you notice a lot of them were saying they were like me, like a trans man,
Hmm.
but they look like a girl. And then they weren't even actually making an effort to become a man, right? They weren't taking hormones, surgery. This is a commitment. but they were saying that they were a trans man. I'm like, what? So you see it even made us a sort of thing within our own community where we started to fight within each other because we were feeling very disrespected by people.
Hmm. Yeah, I see that too with like nine binary having like full builds, the trans women full builds and stuff. There was it the Alex Stein? He had the guy from The Bachelor
Yeah,
that had that social experiment. Just
that's
full on
right.
build, just put on a slightly girly voice and that's it.
Josh Cedar, his name is,
Yeah,
and
that's his name.
I actually had him on my show, and
I
we had
haven't
a.
watched that one. I've been meaning to,
You
but
should
yeah,
watch
that's
it.
why I bring him up because you just talked to him.
He was great. I'll tell you what, like that's the kind of guy I am, my friend. Like I want
Hmm.
to hang out with you, right? I want to go and have a beer or hang out with you or sit at a table with you. I don't want you to hate me. And the only way that I can do that is to sort of try to build a bridge and reach my hand out to you. And I did that with Josh, and Josh was super cool. And I actually liked what Josh did because he was making a great point. And when they were saying anyone can be trans, so he's like, okay, I'm going to be a woman. I'm like,
And
it's
they're like,
actually
no, not like
genius.
that.
It was genius. He totally made the trans community so mad. It was so great.
Mhm. I feel like that's a good way to kind of push back is that you just flip it back on them and how they try to defend or attack. It shows a lot that it's only
That's
kind of
right.
one way.
No, totally. They're such hypocrites and why they lost the election. 100% why they lost. They all of their lies, and I had been saying it for a long time. You guys better chill out. You're gonna put yourself in a bad because you know what happens? It's like a kid. So a kid will try to do something, right? And will test you as parents and see if they can get away with it. For example, they might say something to you like you're a dummy, right? Mommy, you're a dummy. And instead of saying, "Hey, wait a minute, kiddo, that's not cool." You don't say something. So now they think they can get away with the next thing. So there's like, "Mommy, you're stupid." And then, "Mommy, you're an a-hole." And then, you know what I mean? Till eventually that's what I look at as a community. They just kept taking little steps and pushing us. And then I couldn't believe how people were just not pushing back on it. It was shocking to me, but our government was involved in that. Our government really, the DEI stuff, all of this stuff in schools with children, all of it. I believe our government was really pushing certain types of ideas that do not, on any way, shape, or form, represent the United States of America.
Mhm. I think it's a little bit of a mixed bag that means of opportunity to try and get the masses on your side, but also legit
That's
people who
right.
believe the ideology got into positions so they could do the changes they wanted.
Yeah, you're so right, man. And so now that we
Useful
all look at
idiots
it,
kind of a thing.
no, it's useful idiots, right? Right on. That's why they always use a younger generation, right? It's why all forms of these types of movements use young kids to sort of push and do the dirty work. Like you can just look at the campuses and the protests. No matter how you feel about pro-Palestine or Israel, all that, you just have to look at what happened on those campuses and how a lot of stuff got really carried away. And I think that they were using kids' voices to sort of push these agendas. Same with trans kids. They were using this trans kids are kids. They'll commit if you don't transition them. It was all gaslighting in a situation, and people just went along with it.
Yeah, last I heard, I think there was a study maybe within like the last year that said if you don't intervene, like 65 to like 95% kind of grow out of it after
That's right.
puberty.
That's
So
right.
I get it might be a hectic couple of years, but most might go out of it.
Dude, like literally they said like 90% will grow out of it, okay?
Mhm.
And that's why I was a kid, I was a young girl, I was a tomboy, I was a lesbian, I was all of those things. Look at me today. I'm thriving, I'm healthy, I didn't take puberty blockers, I went through turmoil because I'm not saying you need to be homeless and on drugs and you know what I mean? I'm saying that you need to let kids have life experiences. We all have that. Every single one of us went through puberty. That's the one thing I keep telling everyone. Every human on this earth can relate to puberty. So you can't use puberty as this trans narrative because everyone's gone through puberty. And we know 100% that if you don't let a child go through puberty, they're going to have massive long-term health problems. So I'm
Mhm.
sorry. I choose to let the kid have a little bit of mental anguish than letting the kid grow up to have extreme amount of long-term medical issues that could destroy their life.
Yeah, things don't properly develop. That's the thing with Janice Jennings right now, I
That's
think.
right. That's true.
Didn't properly develop, so they had to use
That's
other
true.
things.
No, it's sad. It's very sad to watch.
Yeah.
And that, they made that show that she's on, and it's been like 87 seasons or some insane amount. They're just milking it as much as they
Mhm.
can to like, it's actually sad to me. That poor person. I really, I fear for that person. I actually do. I don't necessarily think it's going to be a great outcome.
Yeah, hopefully it is, but yeah, we'll see.
Yeah.
And another thing, before I forget, it came and went. I know
Yeah.
people who talked about like the Kamala being like, "Oh, you're at the wrong rally," when somebody say like God, brought up God, and that rubbed a lot of people the wrong way because they frame it as if like the right can only be the religious types. And I
I
think
know.
there's plenty of Democrats that believe in God.
100%. Do you see what I mean? Again,
Hmm.
gaslighting, and they are crazy. I'm serious. Those people are crazy over there, and I used to feel like that about the Dem about the like, about the Republicans. I grew up in a very Republican centered family. My parents are hardcore trumping Republicans. My sisters, everyone. I was the only one
Hmm.
sort of outside of that. This time I had to agree. Like they have literally lost their mind. That's not a Democratic Party. That's something else. It's been taken over, I think, by Marxists and people who want to control our language and all of that kinds of, and then they turn that language back on people like us and call us fascists and Nazis and all this language that they're using, again, gaslighting, right?
Yeah.
Using that language that really fits them. And not every Republican I've met has been extremely awesome to me. Not
Hmm.
everyone has voted. So many of my gay friends have voted for Trump. So that has to say something to us here in this country. So many gay people voted for Trump.
Yeah, that was something kind of like I am married, so that was kind of like what my wife said. My family's mostly Republicans. I'm a registered one, but I always like to think myself more of an independent,
Yeah,
centrist
yeah,
type, but more like
me too.
right leaning on a few things.
Yeah,
But she's was raised more Democrat, and she's like, yeah, you guys are nothing like what I've heard Republicans are supposed to be like. You guys are
that's
very
right.
opening, welcoming and stuff.
Well, that's also, right? Because unless you, so I could use the analogy of trans, right? Because all you see is these crazy trans people out there. When I say I'm trans, people are like, "Oh, well, but can I say?" I'm like, "No, I'm not that person," right? So you get represented by a party of people is not fair, and not all one group of people is that way, right? You can't
Hmm.
say all. Of course, you have far right people who I totally disagree with, just as you have far left people. Those are fringed, crazy people who are very specific in their ideas and their ideologies. But I'd say, on a whole, and also I'm going to say, on a whole, I think most Americans just want us all to have our economy, live in peace, do what we want to do, have the faith that we want to have, right? But be able to travel, be able to have money in the bank. I think that's literally the common ground we all have as Americans, no matter what party you come from. We all just want to live our lives and be prosperous and raise our families.
Yeah, to get a little into the conspiracy aspects, there's
Yeah,
was it Marcuse wrote that capitalism actually delivers the goods. People are happy. We have money, we can survive, we can buy things, like you said, travel, all the good things.
that's right.
So if you want to control them, you have to create that new oppressor class. So
That's
that's where
right.
you see the shift from working class to like the victim mentality. Everybody wants that victim card.
No, you just hit it on the head, and I'm a huge believer of capitalism. Now, capitalism can also be taken to the extreme, right? We have
Hmm.
people like that who abuse. Again, we always have people who have to abuse the system. I'm a capitalist. I've created all my own companies. I would never have the ability to do that in many other places, right? I didn't even graduate high school. I was called a dummy my whole life. And here I sit. I'm very successful in my life and being able to do these things, right? Because
Hmm.
I had the opportunity to do that in this country. And then these young people are being told that capitalism is fascism and bad. And I'm just like, you are so wrong. You don't even understand what the gift of being able to create and do these things and enjoy your own life and be your own boss or So the way that they have just sort of demonized capitalism also says that they're not part of this country.
No, I think that's part of the misinformation and the gaslighting. Um,
Yeah,
was it the definition of capitalism is just the means that capital is exchanged for goods and services. So
there you
if you're
go.
creating something, you should be able to benefit, whether through
That's
means
right.
to buy other things or, like barter system trading. That's why I
That's
don't,
right. Yeah.
yeah, I don't believe in the evils of capitalism. I think it's just the evils of man. People get
Well, there you
prideful and
go.
greedy.
That's right. It's you're right. It's well, that's what I'm saying. There's always the bad
Hmm.
players who have
Yeah,
to
there's
sort
always
of
the bad apples in every
they're
group.
always in any group or community. There's always the people who go rogue and, get greedy and do stuff like that. But because people have been told, people like, Elon Musk, or Elon Musk gives a lot back. I don't think people really understand that. He
I
does give a
haven't looked
lot.
too much into him and all that, but yeah, I feel like there's just like a lot of unnecessary hate for him that may or may
Yes.
not be manufactured.
Because money, people get so mad when people
Hmm.
have more than what they have, right? Instead of saying, well, wow, this person created this space for themselves, maybe I can do it too. And I can also use that as an example of my own space. And I created products for the trans community before it was even anything hardly. And I did prosper off of that. And but it was a give and take kind of situation. I created a product that didn't exist in our community that
Hmm.
helped transgender men move forward in their life. And then as this crazy trans thing went off, oh, Buck's just profiting off the trans. I am not. I I literally made a product that didn't exist only to help us all. But I have to make money in order to create. But you see how they manipulated that, and then I
Yeah, that.
became the bad person because I created a product that represented a very specific thing.
Hmm. Yeah, and like I said, the evils of man, the envy is also a
And
deadly sin. Um,
total deadly
I think
sin.
that's where it comes from, like the was it the socialism and
Yes,
communism? They're mad that somebody else got to do it before them.
it's so true. And I don't think people even understand the dangers of those ideas, right? They just don't. Of course, I want to share, right? I think on some level, like Canada has like a socialist capitalist sort of country. And I do think there's certain things that we could maybe balance out here, like healthcare. I think healthcare is very important. And, the healthier the people are, the more prosperous the people are. So if people are struggling on some level to be healthy because they can't afford to go to the doctor, that to me isn't not a good thing. But at the same time, it doesn't mean we should all sort of be paying for that while other people are abusing the system. There has to be some level out of that. So, and then I believe big pharma has become a very dangerous space in this country.
Yeah, and big pharma is definitely something to go after. But yeah,
Yeah,
I would agree. Some kind of like basic health care, like you break your arm or you get the flu, here's a box of medicines from
that's
the
right.
ER, whatever.
Yeah.
She should be
Yeah.
covered just to help.
Just to help, because when you struggle and you don't have, when I've been to many countries, and like Sweden, they have that. You could just go in and get these medications. And even in Mexico, they really do take care of their, you can go to the hospital with, anyone can go to the hospital there, and it's covered by the government. And so I don't understand why, well, I do understand why we don't, because I think big pharma and greed took over, and people do struggle. People should not have to go to the emergency room because they got sick and then get a bill for $20,000 that they'll never be able to pay off, right? That should never happen. That to me is actually disgusting, and putting people in that stressful, because no one's going to want to go to the doctor, and instead they get sick and die because they're scared they're going to get a $20,000 bill.
Yeah, and I heard people saying like, "Oh, I can't afford this," and then they'll come back with like a smaller bill that's only like a couple hundred, couple thousand. It's like,
That's
okay, so
true.
if you could just make up prices why it's so expensive, and I think
That's
insurance
right.
is a big thing too,
That's
because they
right.
know
It's yeah.
they would pay, they jack up the prices, and then greed.
Well, there you go, and that's that bad part of sort of that you're able to sort of,
Hmm.
so I know that, like when I go to Vegas for certain conventions, right? In November, the hotel room is $150, but in January when I go to the convention, it's $800.
Hmm. Yeah,
I'm like,
seasonal stuff.
how did that magically just happen?
Yeah. Um, I had another thought, but I think I lost. Oh. And I think that it was a big push too to kind of get rid of like home remedies. Certain plants, I think, were
That's
dandelions.
right.
I think the roots are good for like heart
Yes.
issues.
No,
So
you
to
hit,
treat
but that's big
symptoms, not
pharma.
like the actual cause too.
That's why RFK, right?
Hmm.
He actually talks about those things. Like we need to get. I just was reading today about the obesity epidemic in this country, the diabetic epidemic in this country. Right? We have such insane health problems in this country because the food is disgusting, and it's people can go eat at McDonald's cheaper than they can to create a healthy, dinner with vegetables and things like that. So that is why we have such a epidemic because then what? It creates that
It's cycle.
cycle. That's right. That's
Mhm.
right. Let's fix it. It doesn't we don't need unhealthy people.
Yeah,
Unhealthy people,
fat homeless
fat people.
people. Hey, come on. Yeah, it's crazy to have fat homeless people with cell phones. Hey, come on. Shh.
That's hilarious. No, we
No, come
only in
on.
this country.
Shh. Yeah, people
Only
hate
here with
America, but
fat.
everybody wants to come here.
No, it's
Hey,
with cell phones. How are they?
shush,
No, because I live in LA, dude, and believe me,
shush.
it's so crazy.
Shh. Sorry, my dog's barking at the
That's all
door.
right. That's all right. I have a dog too, dude. It's all
Uh,
good.
well, I think that covers the politics portion. Hey, are you religious at all, or have you had any paranormal or like supernatural experiences?
Oh, actually, I have, and I know people think you're crazy when you say stuff like this. Am I religious? I grew up in a Baptist household, but I always wasn't really comfortable actually going to church, especially in Baptist
Hmm.
space. Something about being called a sinner all the time. I think when I was 10, I'm like, I don't know, I don't like this. So I don't think I'm religious in the sense that I believe in a bigger power than myself. If that's God, great, or universe, and I would say now my family is Jewish. My wife is Jewish, and we raise our child
Hey,
as
come on.
Jewish.
You shush.
I don't
Sorry.
even hear him. I don't even hear him.
Oh,
He
I
is.
do, but he's sitting right
Oh,
behind me.
oh, that's why. Yeah. So I just want you to know that though that I can't hear him.
Okay, I'll try not to
So
pay too much attention then.
that's all right. Don't worry. I'm good. So anyway, I right now I'd say I'm around the Judaism space. But anyway, that being said, I'm much more spiritual. And oh yeah, I lived in New Orleans where definitely there was some vibes going on in I've lived in the French Quarter, dude. And there was definitely some energies and things that I saw and felt there, as well as a house here in LA that I lived in, where there was definitely an evil spirit in there. There's no doubt.
Yeah, I think the because it's much older than out here on the west. I think there's a lot of bad energies out there, like in the Appalachians, New Orleans,
Oh,
the
because they
swampy
also,
area.
yeah, they practice voodoo. So,
Hmm.
that stuff, you can't play around. And also, I lived in Mexico in the Yucatan where they also were very spiritual and they would do rituals. And I also lived with somebody who was from Cuba and his mother practiced Santeria, which, if you don't know, that also I felt an energy that I will never forget. So it's why I am a believer that there are definitely energies that could be bad and good because I felt it.
Hmm. Yeah, I think the term is agnostic, which is how I feel like I am. I do believe in a
Yeah,
higher power, but not
yeah,
necessarily one religion.
yeah.
I am more like also like esoteric, I think is the term. If
Hmm.
there's higher dimensions, higher planes of existence,
Yeah,
then whatever's kind of like on the top would
yeah.
be essentially a god to us,
That's right. I
because
totally agree
it's
with you.
beyond understanding too.
That's why I don't necessarily believe God, right? But if people want to do that, go right ahead.
Oh yeah, that's
Obviously,
also
I have
like
no
if
issues.
a
Yeah,
being up there would be a god to us.
that's
Not
right.
that
That's
it's,
right.
divine or anything.
It's to me, it's always energy. It's why I always say the universe, because I believe in the power of the universe, right? And I believe these shifts of energy. And I also believe, how can we be so narcissistic to believe there isn't other beings? That just seems crazy to me. The vast amount of the universe, there's got to be other things going on and other energies. And it just, and also, I have just in this one thing, I lived in this house in Los Feliz here in Los Angeles, and it was just an older neighborhood. And I lived in this huge, gigantic house built in like 1900. And I'll never forget one night I was home alone and then I was walking there's a stairway and the door was shut at the top of the stairway. My bedroom was to the left. And I walk up the stairs and my dog was just barking, barking, looking up the top of the stairs. I'm like, shut up, dude. I'm just going to bed. And barking, barking. And I get up to the top of the stairs. I'll never forget, dude. This make me freak out. I opened the door and I felt two hands. I know I'm not crazy. I felt two hands go on my shoulders, like bam, like two big man hands. And then I was like, whoa. And I slammed the door and I slept down on the couch that night. But I'll never forget that. I actually felt those hands, like they were actual hands on my shoulders. So
Yeah, feeling the weight would is
the
something.
weight, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So
I
how can I
haven't.
not believe it? How
Yeah.
can I not?
Yeah. It's one thing to feel like air was past you, but the weight of something coming down is hard
That's
to just
right.
explain.
That's right.
I would say my only supernatural experience was I was in Texas a few years back with some family. Um, I remember turning over and because I was sleeping in the living room on the couch, I had turned over and looked in the hallway and I thought it was my aunt. She walked by, but she was more kind of like not completely black silhouette, but almost
Yeah.
because the
Yeah.
light was coming down
Yeah.
and I didn't have my glasses on, and so she walked past. And then a few minutes later, I think I got up because I had to pee, or shortly after that, and I never saw her come back towards this way, because the way the house was set up, I would
Yeah.
have had to have ran into her if she was heading back to her room, which is
Yeah.
where she was coming from, and I have no explanation.
See, see. I mean, also, I think energies because even though you leave, I do think you leave an energy in the space. I think people who don't believe, I think people like us who believe maybe have a more opening in our self that we're more able to sort of see these kinds of things. I wonder because why only certain why doesn't everybody see these things? Why, right? Does that make sense? Like, how
Yeah, I
come?
think it comes to like what you said, some people genetically could be more open.
Yeah,
I've heard people bring up like, DMT, mushrooms,
sure.
ayahuasca, opening those doorways to them.
Yeah, it's true. I have done mushroom, but I did mushrooms most more for help like what do you call it microdosing in order to get out of a depression, which helped me a lot. And I back in the day when I used to do a ton of drugs 30 or so years ago, I definitely fried on too much
Hmm.
acid. So maybe that did open something up.
Yeah, I heard on one podcast somebody was saying like a couple grams of mushrooms could help like the pathways kind of cure depression for like 6 months to a year.
It helped me, dude. It actually helped me. I'm
Yeah.
not kidding. It was COVID, right? All that kind of stuff. And I'm like, I'm not that guy. I'm not a depressed person. And it was bugging me that I was feeling, and I'm also not into pharmaceutical stuff. I didn't want to get hooked on some antidepressant or something. So my buddy's all, dude, you got to try mushroom microdosing. It's amazing. I'm like, what am I going to fry all day? He's like, no, it's just. So anyway, I did it. And I think I did it for 2 weeks and it literally snapped my brain out of it. That's why I'm
Hmm.
saying RFK, right? Um, I think he's gonna bring stuff like this. These things should have been legalized a long time ago. I worked in the cannabis market. I had my own cannabis company, and it just took off. But what happened is people got greedy in the cannabis company, and then it became crappy
Yeah.
stuff. It lost its sort of spiritual space that I was trying to create. It became a drug space, if that
Yeah,
makes sense.
I think that's kind of like the downside of it. You get too big and you become commercial and you kind of lose the
Yep.
reason why you started it.
So sad to me that that happens, right? So,
Hmm.
I guess it's like us having our own podcasts and things that growing and getting bigger. I don't ever want to lose that connection. I think that I create with my listeners. It's very important to me, and it's why I do. I don't do it to become famous. I do this really because I actually enjoy like talking to people, and I actually enjoy sort of bringing a different idea to the world. And I just enjoy connection with people, if that makes sense. So it's sad when I always see people get a big space and then lose the sort of original space from where they came from.
Yeah, I think trying to aim for the what do they call it? The seven heavenly virtues, the opposites of the seven sins, and
Oh,
humility, I think,
great.
is how you conquer pride. So I think that's a big
Great.
thing too. You stay
Yeah.
humble. It's the fans that got you. They grew you. They got you the money to grow. You gotta
That's
stay
so
humble.
No, that makes sense. Stay humble. That's huge for me, right? And
Mhm.
humiliation, and being in that space. I think because of coming from a sobriety space and really being so out of my mind at one time, and I really feel like I have a second opportunity at life. I appreciate every day that people forget to appreciate waking up. Just waking up
Yeah.
is like a gift on some level, and then being healthy and then being able to have the things you have in your life. I think that we have lost that sense of gratitude.
Yeah, people can't just enjoy the simple life. I think
No.
social media also plays a
Oh,
role in that, and the envy.
wow.
People are envious that other
Yes.
people get to live nice lives, and you really don't
Yes.
know the story behind it because it's so easy to fake it.
Oh my gosh, I read so many stories of these influencers, and like this last one I saw where this guy and his wife, and they were like these big influencers, and then comes to find out that they were actually in hundreds of $1,000s in debt, and they were
Hmm.
living this lifestyle that, and then the mom dies, and now the influencer's getting in trouble because they think he killed his mom, and I'm just like, see, it's all an illusion. These influencers are very dangerous to me because they aren't authentic, and they're showing what you just said, right? And everybody wants to achieve this idea of the perfect life when you actually look behind the curtain, and that's not what's really happening there,
Yeah, you always want what does it say? There's always something better down the road or whatever.
which isn't true.
Hmm.
That's why you have to sit and you have to appreciate what you have around you instead of looking at your neighbor, right? At what your neighbor has. Why are you not looking at what you have, and why are you not comfortable? So that's the question to me, to people need to ask themselves. Why are you seeking outside of what you have? What is missing in your life so much that you think this other person has a better life than you? Because we know what goes on behind closed doors. Sometimes it's not a good thing.
Yeah. Well, I don't know how much time you have left. So my last thing was just, do you believe in any like cryptids? Like you touched on, I think aliens. I do believe there's other
Oh
life out
yeah.
there.
Oh
Or
yeah.
like Bigfoot, fairy type,
You know,
dogmen,
yeah,
werewolves.
of course, yeah, right. In a I want to say like in a just here we are in reality kind of space.
Hmm.
No, yeah, come on. But then the other part of me goes, but why not? Because I am the guy that why not? Why wouldn't Bigfoot exist? And why are we such narcissists that we don't think there can't be other kinds of living creatures that possibly were here before us?
Hmm.
And
Yeah, we
maybe
know through the foster records there was massive creatures.
that's right, dude. So that's the part of me that's like, okay, I know people think you're crazy when you say stuff like this, but why? And the other thing is like people who are homeless, right? Some people who are homeless and we call crazy because they're talking to themselves or they see things or they do. I'm like, but wait, maybe they're on another dimension than we are, but instead of us calling them crazy, maybe we should understand why are they seeing these things, and maybe they have an opening that we're not seeing. If that, I mean, they've done horror movies like that, but I also really think everything isn't black and white, I guess, is my answer to that, right? How can it be? It's just not true. There could be those things. They could exist.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of things that may not be possible, but they're plausible. And I've heard
That's
that
it.
with
That's it.
schizophrenia. Maybe it's not like a mental illness. Maybe they're tapping into something that we don't
That's right.
understand. They're not
That's
completely here with us physically and mentally.
That's right. And so instead, we can't figure it out, so we give them drugs,
Hmm.
right? To bring them back down to our reality. That's the part that because those people have been around forever, forever in the history of this world. We've always had schizophrenic people. They've just been named different things, right? They've just been
Yeah,
looked
it's
at
been a
as
different name.
that's right. That's right. So how come we can't sort of try to study it in a way that says, well, what are they actually seeing and why are they actually seeing that? And why aren't we studying dimensions and energies? For example, I believe in energy, dude. And what I say that is if I put out this anger shit energy all day long, what am I going to get back? I'm literally going to get that back because I've tested it. And then if I put out real happy energy and it's like a whole other thing. So to me, that's energy. And then energy can be sort of moved around. Just am I making sense or I sound
Yeah,
crazy?
I think we have more than just the five senses. People say like six or seven that we can't really tap into. And I think that's something else. People can pick up good and bad
Yes.
energies. You can tell by looking at somebody that they might want to
Yes.
hurt you without any verbal
That's
communication.
right. No, no, that's exactly right, friend. And so that means something. So what does that mean? We call it intuition, right? Or we call it
Sixth,
you see,
we call it the sixth sense
the
when you
sixth
can tap
sense.
open stuff.
You can
Mhm.
totally feel if someone is evil. I mean, however you want to call it, but you can actually feel that. I know I feel it, and I walk on the other side of the street. When I see that
Yeah.
person, I'm like, I'm just going to walk on the other side of the street. I don't need to engage with that energy.
Yeah, there's a show, Gravity Falls, that introduced a concept of like an
Oh,
infinity dice. And
oh,
so for
interesting.
like D&D and the sides was always shifting because it's infinity. And I feel like if you mix that with kind of like a tesseract, something that's always collapsing in on itself,
Okay,
I feel like that's more of a representation of kind of like our universe. Everything is layered and connected, so
that's
many
right.
different realities and possible
That's right.
timelines through choices. And I think like energies, vibrations, I think that has something to do with how everything operates. You get the right tone and frequency, you can make, stuff
Yes.
move, open gateways,
Well,
and
think of
things can just
music.
happening like naturally.
Yeah, but also think of music, right? To
Yeah,
music to
it can
me
change your
is that
mood.
you can change your mood by putting just that sound on or just that vibration on, right? You can
Mhm.
actually change the way you feel from that. That's to me that's dimensional or something that has
Yeah,
to do
it
with
can
those
hype you
layers.
up or calm you down, make you sad.
That's
I've never
true.
really been a fan of country, but I have heard a lot of people commit suicide to countries, and I can kind of see how that makes
Wow. I
a lot of
didn't
it
hear
kind of like
that.
depressing. It's an old fact I heard. I don't know if it's ever true or not. Something I heard in like junior
Wow.
high.
That's very
Um,
interesting. Well, country has made a comeback.
no, definitely.
Yeah, a huge comeback, and so I'm not a big country fan either, but some of it kind of is interesting
Yeah,
to listen
I
to.
hear the jokes. It's always like my wife left, I lost my dog.
I know that's why. Oh my God, a tear in my beer because I can't
hmm
get over you. I'm just like these words are so
Yeah, that's
great.
why I could see how if you're already down, that can probably make you down, which would
Oh,
lead to
totally,
things.
100%. You're right.
Yeah.
Wait, what's that? Gravity Falls? Is that a show?
It was a kid show that ran for like 2 seasons on Disney, but
Oh,
it's really good because it has
I'm
a
gonna
lot of
check
like
it out.
strange stuff like monsters,
Oh,
aliens, interdimensional things. My kids really
interesting.
enjoyed it. I have two and one on the way.
Oh, great.
Thank you.
Congratulations. I have one, a 12-year-old, but I'm adopting it. I'm in the
hmm
process of adopting a kid now.
Oh,
So,
that's nice. Congrats to
yeah.
you if
Thank
everything
you.
goes well.
Yeah, thank you. Love kids. I love kids. It's why I fight for them. Why I don't believe there's no such thing as trans kids. Anyone listening to this, there's no such thing as trans kids. Those kids are struggling, whatever's going on. They might have some dysphoria. Let them just grow up and they'll either be fine or they might transition as an adult. But nope, nope. We cannot be
hmm
doing that crazy stuff to kids. That's just actual insanity.
Another thought I had earlier that came around, kind of final thoughts. Yeah, I see that, and I find it funny how they're like, don't, allow the left and stuff. They say don't do gender norms, but as soon as a boy picks up a Barbie, it's like, oh, trans, okay, he's one of ours, don't touch him.
See
Or like
that?
haircuts, people get all
Oh
like,
my
oh,
God.
I have a mohawk, it's not feminine. I'm a
But
dude, and it's
I'm a
just a
dude.
haircut.
It's just a haircut. That's exactly right. So they're such hypocrites, dude. That's exactly right. They're like, don't stereotype us, but at the same time, he wants to wear a beret, so he must be a girl. I'm like, my God, if my parents did
hmm
that to me when I was a kid, my parents they struggled. I grew up in the '60s. Can you imagine? Like they didn't really. They just I was a tomboy or whatever. But I always would say I'm a boy. I'm a boy. And they'd be like, okay, fine, you're a boy. Like, but I knew I was a girl. If that makes sense. My parents never said like you can change your sex and we'll give you. You know what I mean? Like I just
hmm
was that tomboyish masculine girl. And you're right. They're literally destroying their whole basis of what it means to be a trans kid because none of it makes any sense. First off, don't let a kid do this, but then secondly, don't. And also, come on, man, we're talking about kids. You and I
Yeah.
both have kids. We know your kid's
They
going to
play with
change
whatever they can get their hands on.
and change their mind constantly
hmm
about what they like, what they dislike, and So to put a kid on medication, and then what happens if they decide it's the parents who are making the choices? You know that, right?
It does seem like that. Like I said, I
Yeah,
don't have trans kid. I'm not
yeah,
trans, so
yeah.
I have
They
my
are.
options. But yeah, I
They
like
are. Well,
to.
they're gaslighting them.
Hmm.
They're telling me and you as parents would feel horrifying if a doctor said, if you don't do this for your child, they're going to off themselves. We would feel horrified and we would try to find a solution for that.
Hmm.
It's why that's called gaslighting because a kid will not off themselves because you don't transition them. That's just not true. What you need to do is get your kid into some form of mental health care and therapy and talk it out with them and eventually help them grow out. This should always be the last choice, my friend. It should never be. Now they're
The
making it a
first one.
first choice. Yeah. What are you doing? Like, no, you gotta, this is something I have to do for the rest of my life. It's not a fun thing. I wish I didn't have to do this, but it helps me. It's like, I have to take my medication every day and it just made me a better person. But why would you put a 10-year-old in this position?
Yeah, that could probably just go out after, puberty hits.
That's right. That's right, friend.
Hmm.
Exactly.
Well, based on the clock, I think we're about to 45. Do you have
Thanks,
any
friend.
final thoughts,
Oh
comments,
no, thank you
questions?
so much. No, I totally appreciate you reaching out. Really, it means a lot.
Yeah.
Sorry it took so long to get connected to you, but I do appreciate it
Yeah,
very much. And
sad thing of being a small fish in this community.
I know it sucks, but
But yeah, I'm
whatever.
glad
Just
it finally worked out. I think
you'll
it was a
grow.
great
You'll grow.
conversation.
You'll grow. Just keep doing it, my friend. And I appreciate you giving me some time here and a platform. And hopefully, some of your listeners will, if you want to reach out to me, if you have any questions, I'm easy. Buck Angel everywhere, pretty much. And
Yeah, that was my next thing. If you want to shout out socials,
yeah,
I
yeah.
think I
Does
forgot to do in
X?
the beginning.
It's all right, dude. Don't even worry about it.
Hmm.
X, I'm Buck Angel. Instagram, Buck Angel. TikTok is a mess, but I'm still on there. And I'm on YouTube as Buck Angel Official. And when you're done with this, just let me know and I'll put it on all my
No, definitely.
socials.
I could see about maybe trying to have it all edited and ready to go tomorrow
Great.
or Thursday.
Excellent.
Because
Excellent.
it doesn't seem like there would be much to cut out. Maybe a bit of the dog barking, but
I
that's
didn't even
about it.
hear it.
Like I said,
It's
yeah,
just-
she's right behind me, so it sounded loud to me.
it's okay, dude. I have a
Hmm.
kid and a dog.
Yeah.
So it's all good. But thanks, friend, and thanks everybody
Yeah,
for
thank
listening.
you.
Appreciate you.
Great conversations. I like to live
Awesome.
in more of a weird place than something that's so straightforward. So I like to hear other
Me
people's
too.
ideas. And
I
that's
know that's
how
really
things
cool.
grow, you move as a
Well, thanks
civilization.
for coming to the Blair show. I mean, that was a really big hit, and I
Yeah,
think
I'm still trying to reach out to her. I
she's
emailed
hard
her
to
a
get a
few times.
hold of.
Yeah.
If you get a hold of her, good for you, dude.
That's why I was hoping to see her in person would help, which maybe she might
That
remember,
woman
but
is
there's so many
she.
meet and greets. I
Oh,
understand.
and she does such good work. I'm telling you,
Hmm.
if it wasn't her, for her, I wouldn't be doing what I'm doing now either because she really opened my eyes to it early on. So she's an amazing human and going to make a lot of great stuff in this world. She's going to be, I wouldn't doubt if she becomes a politician. I wouldn't doubt
Oh
it
yeah,
at all.
definitely.
Yeah,
Great things in the
totally.
future.
For sure. Right on, friend. Have a great rest of your
Yeah,
day.
thank you. You too. All right,
Okay,
bye
I'll
bye.
talk to you later. Okay, bye.